Hey kids, nice sunny Saturday afternoon. We thought we'd bring you a little bit of a Tory update. We thought we'd bring it out and get her out and have a bit of sun, a bit of vitamin E into her. And yeah, it's getting pretty exciting now. It's looking pretty sleeky sitting out on the ground here now, and it's getting very close. What we've done from last time, we've had Todd add a burst panel to the top of the manifold, and we thought about it, but we decided to cut a little hole there, and that'll be all painted up and you won't see the daggy edges or anything. We thought we better have an opening there in case it ever does blow the panel out and save us doing a heap of repair work, so that'll just blow out and it won't do any damage to the car. So that was good to get that done. We've got the screamer pipes on there, we've trimmed them up a little bit, so with a bit of luck we can get it banging flames out of those screamer pipes on each side, and maybe a big dragon flame out the exhaust. And you know, the starter better look out. It's going to get pretty hot and start one, but should be pretty good to see. But the other thing we've done is we've got the transmission cooler in here with a fan on it. This is going to be rigged up. On our other Tory we had over a certain RPM, I think it was 2000 RPM, the fan clicked on, so it wasn't running all the time. This one we may have it turn on at a certain temperature, but we'll decide that when the car goes in to get wired up. But that's all. There's not a lot of room for stuff, so you need to have a fan so we can just get a bit of air moving through it. You keep the lines away from each other as much as we can so that they're not making heat. Sometimes you see people have them strapped together the whole way up and the whole way back, and all that's doing is creating heat. So we've got them separated from each other as much as we can, just to give it a little bit extra chance to cool down. Got plenty of rubber in the back there, nice big boots on it. But I guess the biggest thing is we've got our all-fast transmission in the car now, and yeah, we're really chuffed to get that in there, and everything is rigged up. We've got brand new tail shaft in there, we've got an Optima battery mounted up. Good thing about these Optimas, they've got little recesses in there, so we've got a permanent steel version of this on the back side with this removable one, so there's no ugly battery clamps over the top. That is absolutely solid. You could hang that upside down. These are like a fiberglass set resin battery, so it's fine to have it in the car. That's under the regulations that if you are going to have it in the car, you've got to have this style of battery. So that's all really cool, and that'll give us plenty of power to power everything we need. But this transmission I bought a transmission in from America about 10 years ago, a Mike's transmission, and it has a larger, a 1.125 input shaft, which is a Ford AOD size input shaft, and a Turbo 400 output shaft. It's about as big and bad as you can get in the Powerglide deal, and we ran that transmission down to 3.9 half track and 6.1 to the quarter mile. Had a lot of success with it, and Simon looked after the transmission, and this is Simon's own evolution of that transmission, even better again. It's got billet valve body. It's running twin dumps on it, which is just to help the turbo spool. One of these dumps runs off the cooler circuit, which has a pill in it, and we can adjust that pill size to have more dump or less dump. So that one on the cooler line is called your first gear dump, and it's how we take a little bit of drive out of the car. Maybe like you call it slip the converter a little bit, just take a little bit of drive away from it, so you can keep the turbo lit, keep the car screaming, but actually slow the wheels down a bit through this. And we can change the pills in there. It's just one of Simon's little trick things he does. He plumbs it all in to the valve body himself, and it's really killer. The other dump is for spooling the transmission, and that taps into the converter circuit, which it actually runs into where the dipstick would have went originally. and then it tracks its way into the converter circuit. So to help get the car spooled on the line, it pulls a heap of line pressure out of the torque converter, which makes the converter feel a bit slippier and helps you spool the car up. So both these dumps will be working on the start line, and this first gear one through the low gear, and all the oil that they're pulling out of the circuit gets dumped back into the sump. So pretty full-on deal, but it's what you need if you want to go fast. The other thing about it is he's also rigged up a dry lock cooler deal for it. So the cooler plugs into both sides of this. It draws the hot oil out of the bottom of the sump, goes through this cooler that we've got, and then forces the oil back into the converter. So that it actually cycles, like a lot of coolers don't do this, but this actually forces the oil into the converter, then back into the sump, then we pick it up out of the sump, goes back and gets cooled. So all the oil in the transmission is getting cooled, unlike some things that just cycle through the sump. So this is the way we're going to look after this brilliant transmission we've got. And yeah, it's good to have all the good shit in there, but you want to keep it cool and between rounds, and go to the start in case you're going to get burnt down by a blown car or some super stock car. We're going to have the coolest transmission. You can hold us in the line as long as you like. We're not going to be bothered about that. So that's that. Oh, the other thing we got, the cam sync. That's one thing we didn't show you last time. When you pull when you don't have a distributor in the car, you have the crank trigger to tell you the crank position. And this is a little thing you add for an EFI car, is a cam sync or a cam position sensor. So that's just a little bit more information for the ECU for firing injectors and cam position, firing orders and stuff like that. Without a distributor, that's just a little bit of extra information along with the crank trigger that helps get everything all running correctly. Now over to here's the cooler that Simon's put together for us. So when the oil comes out of the car all hot, first of all it gets cycled through this cooler and the fan, exactly like we've got in the car. Then once it's cooled down a bit, it goes into this esky. This is all filled with ice water. It gets cycled through, then back into the sump, and this just keeps getting repeated. So the same dry lock fittings that we have that I just showed you on the transmission, they click onto there, and it's got this cool little pump on the back here which just keeps it chugging over. So for half an hour after each run, we cycle all the oil out of the transmission through this deal and then back into the car, and we're ready for next round. So really cool to have that on the car. And yeah, under the bonnet here, the charge pipe's all locked away, finished. Actually the whole car's finished. That's the two extra 2400 Deckers we were talking about in the last video. So they'll be firing fuel into the intake tube, and as the intake temperature gets higher or a bit hot or whatever, we can add more fuel to there, and that's part of the whole fuel map on the car. Not like our last car, we just sprayed a bit of fuel in there and it didn't really amount to anything. It was just mainly as a cooling thing. So they'll be working hard as we're going along. We've had our fuel rails anodized just to stop any corrosion for the injectors and stuff like that. We've got EGTs are all mounted up now. Now they give us the ability to get every cylinder exactly to a nice safe temperature, and then through the wideband, once they're all running nice and safe, through the wideband oxygen sensor, we can lean the whole engine out. But that's just a way on a high boost engine of keeping an eye on individual cylinders, just in case you get a little bit hot somewhere. You can add a little bit of fuel through that cylinder's injectors and really look after that. But we've got all the fuel pressure sensors, boost pressure sensors, everything's in the car. It's pretty much ready to go up and get wired. We've got 3 pressure sensors on the transmission, one for the transmission itself internally, and then 2 extra ones on each of the dumps, so we can see how efficient they're working. The blowdown tubes we talked about last time, they're now plumbed into the chassis rail, and the window just goes down on top of that. We also tapped our transmission breather. We thought, why not? We'll just plug that straight into the chassis rail, and any crap that comes out of there will go off to the same puke tank instead of having additional puke tanks. But so yeah, she's pretty much ready to go and get wired and fired. So next time we see her, she'll be making some noise. We'll check in soon.